We're about to take a deep dive into the mind of Friedrich Nietzsche, the 19th century German philosopher who gave us the famous and foreboding line, "If you stare into the abyss stares back at you." But what on earth does this mean? Are we talking about literal abysses here? Should we be concerned about the Grand Canyon giving us a disapproving look? Fear not. Let's unpack this phrase, Nietzsche style, and see if we can make sense of this existential enigma. Before we dive into the abyss, let's get a bit of context on our mustachioed philosopher. Nietzsche was born in 1844 in a quaint little town in Germany. He was a bit of a prodigy, and by his mid-20s, he was already a professor of classical philology. But Nietzsche wasn't one to stick to the status quo. He questioned everything, from religion to morality to society's most cherished beliefs. Nietzsche was also a man plagued by poor health and even poorer luck in love. His personal struggles and isolation undoubtedly colored his philosophical musings. His works, filled with radical ideas and poetic prose, were often misunderstood during his lifetime. It was only after his death that the world began to catch up to his brilliance. Now, onto the abyss. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a dark, seemingly bottomless chasm. It's a metaphor, of course, for the unknown, the void, the nothingness that lies beyond our understanding. Nietzsche wasn't the first to ponder such depths, but he sure had a knack for dramatizing it. When Nietzsche tells us that staring into the abyss results in the abyss staring back, he's not just being spooky for the sake of it. He's warning us about the dangers of confronting the void within ourselves. The abyss represents the chaos, the darkness, and the potential for madness that lies in the human soul. It's the part of us that we'd rather not acknowledge, let alone confront. Think about it. We all have those moments when we question our purpose, when we feel the weight of existence pressing down on us. It's not a pleasant experience. Most of us would rather distract ourselves with cat videos or the latest Netflix series than face the existential dread head-on. But Nietzsche wasn't advocating for avoidance. Quite the opposite. He believed that confronting the abyss was crucial for personal growth. However, he also warned that it's not without its risks. The abyss staring back at you means that when you delve into the darker parts of your psyche, you might not come out unscathed. You might find parts of yourself that are unsettling, disturbing even. This is where Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch, or the Overman, comes into play. The Übermensch is someone who has confronted the abyss and emerged stronger. Someone who creates their own values and meaning in a world that seems inherently meaningless. But getting there requires a willingness to face the darkness without being consumed by it. To better understand this, let's borrow a concept from another great thinker, Carl Jung. Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst, introduced the idea of the shadow, the unconscious part of our personality that contains our repressed desires, fears, and instincts. Jung's shadow is strikingly similar to Nietzsche's abyss. When we stare into the abyss, we're essentially confronting our shadow. It's a necessary step for self-awareness and individuation, the process of becoming whole. But as Jung warned, failing to integrate the shadow can lead to psychological issues. If you deny the darker parts of yourself, they don't just go away. They fester and can manifest in harmful ways. The modern abyss. In today's world, the abyss is all around us. It's in the constant barrage of information, the existential threats of climate change, inflation, censorship, moral degradation, and the seemingly endless stream of bad news. We're more connected than ever, yet this connectivity often highlights the chaos and suffering that exists. It's enough to make anyone feel a bit nihilistic. Nietzsche's philosophy offers a way through this modern abyss. He challenges us to create our own meaning, to become our own Übermensch. It's not about denying the darkness, but acknowledging it and using it to fuel our personal growth. It's about embracing the chaos and finding our own path through it. Let's take a moment to reflect on the sheer audacity of Nietzsche's philosophy. Here's a man who stared into his own abyss and dared us to do the same. He challenged the status quo, questioned deeply held beliefs, and pushed us to confront the uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world. Nietzsche's abyss isn't just a philosophical concept. It's a call to action. It's an invitation to explore the depths of our own psyche, to embrace the chaos, and to emerge stronger and more self-aware. It's about rejecting complacency and striving for a life of authenticity and meaning. In a world that often feels overwhelming and chaotic, Nietzsche's insights are more relevant than ever. We live in an age where distractions are plentiful, and it's easy to avoid the difficult questions. But Nietzsche reminds us that true growth comes from facing the darkness, not avoiding it. So, what happens when the abyss stares back? It's a moment of reckoning, a confrontation with the parts of ourselves we'd rather ignore. But it's also an opportunity. When we acknowledge the abyss within, we gain the power to transform it. We can turn our fears into strengths, our chaos into creativity, and our suffering into growth. Nietzsche's abyss isn't a place of despair, it's a crucible of transformation. It's where we confront our limitations and discover our potential. It's where we face our deepest fears and emerge with a newfound sense of purpose and clarity. In the end, staring into the abyss is about embracing our humanity in all its complexity. It's about acknowledging the darkness, but also recognizing the light within us. It's about understanding that we are capable of both great suffering and great triumph.